I'm calling the meeting of the Public Safety Committee of Rutherford County for the July meeting to order. Good to see each and every one of you here this evening for this business as we begin this action for this evening. Before we get into the agenda and what is on the agenda, I've got something I would like to say at this time. Last evening we met with at the public hearing dealing with what was discussed as far as our upcoming budget, and we were glad people come out to that and said that and went over the different things that we had there. This being public safety, I know all the commissioners got this, but many of you sitting around here didn't, and it just brought to my attention something I wanted to read and to reaffirm, I guess is what I'm wanting to say. I received this through email, and it basically says, "Good afternoon." Now, I won't give the names or whatever. My name is, I'm a firefighter paramedic for RCFR at Station 60. I've been an employee of Rutherford County since 2010 and love working here. I live in Rutherford County and I take a lot of pride in serving the community in which I live in. Thank you for your recent considerations providing pay increases to our public safety employees. As a father of 2 young children, a 3-year-old boy and 2-month-old baby girl, I cannot express how much this pay increase would help my family. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and we would like for her to be able to continue to raise our kids and not have to work outside of the home. However, that puts a lot of pressure on me to provide for our family. I currently work 24/48 shift and also teach CPR classes part-time. In all, I average around 90 to 100-hour work weeks. I'm happy to do this, provide for our family, but it's also hard being away from them so much. These pay increases would do a great deal for our family, and I hope that you vote to pass this measure at the full commission meeting. Thank you for all your service to the county. I'm proud to call this my county home. As I read that, I got thinking about all of our employees and what we as a public safety committee have done when we reviewed all the budget recommendations that we sent on to Budget and Finance. And what I'm wanting to do this evening, I would just like for this committee to reaffirm and make a motion of support to send on to the Budget and Finance Committee as they go back into session again this week to come up with a final decision to support what come from this Budget Committee for the 19-20 budget year for our public safety employees. And that's all I'm saying basically on this, because we have more employees like this. And this is what it was all about, the reason that we passed that. And I'm just putting forward a motion in that way, a motion of support for our public safety employees.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That was just a little something I think is, I know as a budget committee that you're out there, I think you need to understand your commissioners and committees support you. And we have the chairman sitting right here, and I just wanted to do that on behalf of this committee.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll move on now to the approval of our minutes of the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes of the last meeting and did not find any errors. I move that they be approved.
Okay.
Second.
Have the motion, have a second. Commissioner Irwin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. First is our ambulance service report. Director.
Hello. All right, we've had a good month in May. We had 3,019 calls. Our response time was 6.7. You remember last month it was 6.6. But the reason for 6.7, we had an extra day in the month of May. So I figured that was the reason for that.
That's still a great time.
We're very proud of it, and hopefully we're going to maintain that and even better. Number of DOAs we had was 49, and 20 of those were sent for an autopsy. On collections, our total bill was $1,608,000. $86,568 total collections. We've set a record on that, $1,143,481. So we're very proud of that. The girls in the office have really done a fantastic job on our collections. Year-to-date collections is $8,025,416. Our projected collections are $8,754,999. Our collection percentage rate is 117%. Insurance write-offs were $713,337, and other write-offs were $383,966. Any questions on those? On page 3 is the convalescent unit. And we have 3 reports from Vandy Life Flight on the status of patients that we've flown out, and we have 2 thank you notes, and we also have a letter from Senator White on EMS Week for appreciation, and also one from the governor. Governor Lee has sent us a thing that will be hanging on the wall, presenting appreciation certificate for EMS of Rutherford County.
The Life Flight, they're going to be here.
They'll be hangared in
Hangared,
TBK
yeah.
out at Murfreesboro City Airport.
Tim, what day is that?
31st of July, and that's open house.
Okay.
It's very nice. I've already looked at it. It's real nice. Any questions?
Is that your report
Yes, sir, on the EMS side.
on the US side?
What about your convalescents? Your trips are up, Melanie?
Oh, yes, sir, they are.
Okay.
Made 181 in May.
181 calls in May, and
So we're still trending up.
yes, sir.
Yes.
It's showing your ending balance, profit 61,000.
That's correct. That's through May 31st.
Through May 31st.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on the report?
Motion to approve the report.
Motion made to approve. Have a second. Second. Commissioner Irwin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe you have some other, do you have someone with you, or?
Melanie has some
We have two
amendments.
budget.
Okay.
Are both of them on yours? Let me see yours. I had to add one, so I've got the old one. The first one, we're requesting to move $20,000 from our 321 line item, which is engineering services, into assessments and penalties, which that is our line that we have to provide funding for our provider payment and participation agreement with TennCare. Those are the TennCare kickback payments. They send us revenues, we have to pay the fees. And we do collect more than we pay. And so far, we've collected $268,658, and we've only paid $105,503. It shows we've paid $152,000, but the $46,000 of that was for the previous fiscal year. They didn't bill us until August.
Melanie, is that from that, that was passed, was it last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Last year was the first year they did it. Then we go on with the second one.
Are they not on the same?
They are, yes. And we're requesting to move $3,300 from our paraprofessionals payroll line into the director's payroll. Our previous director retired and we had to pay the annual time, so we were running a little short in that.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Oh, I think we'll have to vote on these, won't we?
Yep.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Serena?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce our county medical examiner, Dr. Lorraine McDonald. She's the one that, whenever we're ordering autopsies, kind of oversees all of that. So I'm going to let her speak and explain things, and maybe answer any questions the committee might have.
And it just, if I confuse anybody, just jump in and ask me any questions.
Doug,
So-
before you get started, why don't you explain the difference between, for some of our new members, the difference between your position as medical examiner and coroner, recently ordained coroner here?
The medical examiner under Tennessee Code has to be an MD with appropriate training if possible. Not all counties have appropriate training, but we have death investigation training that we go to in collaboration with MTSU. I've done several of those. The coroner does not have to be an MD, but the coroner does function with the ME because I can't be 24/7 in all the
Correct.
places that all of these people die. And there's quite a few of them, as we'll go through in a minute. So that's the role that the coroners have, and the deputy coroners, and you'll see that on their sheets when they sign off. So, as I said, under Tennessee Code, every county in the state of Tennessee has to have an ME. And there is some other states that don't have that system, so we're actually pretty blessed. Under our last commissioner, which was John Dreisner, he developed the Office of the State Chief Medical Examiner, which is staffed by some really very competent people to get us organized. That didn't exist until about 2 years ago. I'm fortunate enough, I work with them every day. We're all on the same floor. That was probably a mistake to put us all on the same floor of the building that we're in, but we've done some really good work. So the thing, just to make sure you understand the difference between the state ME and the forensic center where they do the autopsies. I do not do autopsies. I'm an internist by training. I do a lot of critical care medicine, but I do not do postmortems. I've done some training in that, but that's not what I do for a living. Anytime we send someone for a postmortem, they go to one of the 5 regional forensic centers, and we use the Nashville one. I did bring this that I'll leave for you guys to look at. It's quite interesting, and it just explains where everything is and what the rules are and so on. So every death in Rutherford County that occurs within 24 hours is reported to EMS, which is a really important part of the whole operation because they're out there all the time. They have the 2 shifts, north and south, and there's death investigators on both shifts, and they're always in contact with me, and they're very well trained, and they're very good at their job. Within 24 hours, so deaths at home, ER deaths, every death at home, EMS responds to because it has to be investigated whether it's natural or not. We have a lot of overdoses, as you know. When people go out, they'll find one of their unfortunately younger children dead from an overdose. EMS will be called, and then they'll call me, and then we'll transfer that to the ME's office for a postmortem. That's under Tennessee Code that we have to do that. I think if you have this document under Tennessee Code, it tells you all the things that have to go for a postmortem: homicides, suicides, natural violent deaths, suspicious deaths, unexpected deaths. The list goes on, and you can read those. If the decedent has an MD who refuses to sign the death certificate, that defaults to me. If the decedent doesn't feel comfortable, it defaults to me. If they've not seen the patient or the decedent within 4 months, that defaults to me. Or if they just have never seen a physician, or if they're homeless or whatever, that will also default to me. Basically, I wanted to just really quickly tell you about the autopsies. The cost for an autopsy is $1,875 per postmortem. If you want a private one, it's going to cost you about $5,500. So, I mean, that sounds like a deal, but still, when you're doing as many as we've done, that's a lot of money. We use the Forensic Center off of RS Gas Boulevard, off of Ellington Parkway. We don't send them to Chattanooga or any other place. It's a lot closer. Last fiscal year, Rutherford County did 232 autopsies for a cost of, let me make sure I get this right, Carl, $245,000 we've spent so far, and we expect to spend anywhere between $450 and $459 this year, depending on how busy the last month of the fiscal year is. So death investigators, they go out, they investigate, there's photos, they do a really good job, and then we have the bodies removed to the forensic center. The postmortem occurs, and anywhere between 4 to 6 months later, we get the results. And then a lot of families want to discuss the postmortem results with either Carl, usually Carl, sometimes with me, so that they can get some kind of closure. Just kind of the interesting facts is that Rutherford County, since I've been doing this, I've been covering since 2005 with Dr. Warner. Him and I worked together, and then after he passed away in 2014, I took over full time. This city has gotten so big, it's grown so fast. The monthly deaths now in Rutherford County are between 200 to 220, and that's all deaths, natural or otherwise. The amount of cremations has taken off significantly for a lot of reasons. Some of it's money. It's cheaper for a cremation than a funeral. But every cremation has to be approved by the medical examiner, because if a person was cremated and the cause of death was not satisfactorily known, that would be bad, because we would never be able to recover that. So to date, from January to May, I've approved 521. Last year I approved 1,052 cremations. And when we worked out with the total deaths, it's about 50%. It used to be about 15%, 20%, so they're really rising in numbers. So I have to approve everyone, and I insist on looking at the death certificate of everyone, because if I cremate someone without knowing what their cause of death is, that would be a really bad thing, especially if it was a suspicious death. So I also am finding that we're having more people who want to be buried outside of the country if they're from a foreign country. So I have to then make sure that the cause of death was natural, and I do a notarized statement of a non-infectivity, because we don't want to send somebody out that's got a contagious disease. So that's another duty that we have. I'm also involved if someone is exhumed, and that's happened to me once so far. And in 1989, a woman from this county was deemed a suicide, and her family just did not believe that. And for some reason, like about 10, 15 years later, they finally decided to pay the cost and exhume her. And with our new technology and the Forensic Center's technology, they did deem it to be a homicide, and her significant other couldn't live with it any longer and admitted it. And so that resulted in criminal charges. So I think kind of the bottom line is we're getting big, we're getting more complex. We have a narcotic and substance abuse problem. We're a university town. We got interstates running through it. And we're spending a lot of money on postmortems. And I just think it's really important. We're constrained by Tennessee code for who we send. I try to take some of them myself to save us some money. But at some point down the road, I think we're going to have to think about being a university town and our partnerships, what we might want to do with MTSU in the future, and maybe run our own show.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, let me follow up on that. Actually, Director Hudgens came to me about 2 years ago, and we started sitting down with Dr. McDonald and other folks from around the state, and actually looking at Rutherford County, and now with these projections, we're looking at hitting $460,000 in dollars that we have to pay to have the autopsies. We're paying it to a third party. You'll see on that little brochure, it's a third party, and the problem is they are overwhelmed. That third party company that's doing the autopsies in Asheville. And that's why it's taking anywhere from 4 to 6, and sometimes if it's a SIDS death, where a baby dies, you don't know if it's criminal or whether it was actually it was just natural. That's taken even longer, the SIDS death, so that doesn't give the family closure. So we've been kicking around, I think, and talking with Dr. McPhee at MTSU and with Dr. Hildreth at Meharry, because we merged those two medical schools together, which actually is starting this August. And Dr. Hildreth got real excited about it because most medical schools do not have an opportunity to work on autopsies. So if at some point in time I may be coming to you to see if we could join in a partnership with MTSU in building a school for forensics to where if we have, I think, because you've talked to other counties surrounding us, and they'd be willing to send their bodies here as well. So if we're spending $460,000 and you get Smith County, White County, Cannon County, Bedford, they would send their bodies here as well, because that's what's happening. They're sending them all to Nashville. And they have the same delay, so that would be a lot of revenue to help support the operations. We could go to Christie Houston and possibly get money to build the brick and mortar structure, at least help towards that, and then the income coming in could help support that in that partnership with MTSU. The surprising part, when they shared with me, there is no place in Middle Tennessee, even with this facility, there's no place, if we were to have a disaster of, say, 100 bodies, okay? If we had a shooting like they had in Las Vegas, or we had a train derailment with chlorine, or anything else, a tornado, where we had massive number of bodies, there's no place in Nashville to take them. Memphis is fairly well covered. I believe Knoxville is as well. But if you go to St. Thomas, they only have 2 drawers. So, and where would you put those bodies to be identified? Stonecrest only has 2 drawers. We need some facility which could be put into this forensic center to put up to 100 bodies. The only options we have now, as been told to me by the experts here, is that we would have to rent reefer trucks to stack the bodies in like they did down in the hurricane when it hit down in Houston. And then you can't resell the reefer trucks because you've had bodies in them. Or you would have to commandeer the ice where the predators play and lay them out there for the bodies to be identified until next to kin. That's the only 2 options we have in Middle Tennessee. So it encouraged me to think that this could be a possibility in that partnership with MTSU as we move forward down the road as an opportunity to build a forensic facility here with MTSU and Rutherford County joint partner in a P3, so to speak. So just think about that and look at the possibilities.
Well, I mean, I can tell you from my experience, without getting into it, I was an investigator for a lot of years in homicide, suicides, and all that. It's extremely critical to get a results back as soon as possible. We've had cases where you've had a suicide and actually was a murder. We've had people exhumed and re-examined for further evidence. Cremation is really critical because it's gone, at the same time. And then the families need closure. So even in the day, we were still having issues getting returns from Nashville quickly. And it may be that's the very thing that investigator needs to progress on to the next person interview. And I've seen investigations that they're concentrated over here, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it goes all the way over here. In the sense of, look who you're looking for.
Carl, would you estimate we could build a building for a couple of million?
Yes, sir. I believe we can do that reasonably.
Build a building that would have enough cooler space to put the bodies in the event of a natural disaster, but it also could be medical, have laboratories, and I think that former Commissioner Dreisner and others at the Department of Health were kind of excited about us talking in this direction. So I think we could probably get support from the new Commissioner at the Department of Health as well. So it's something we may still continue to work towards.
Well, without speaking in the head of the chairman here, he's got the table, but is there anything that we need to do? You don't, I'm not saying tonight, but I'm saying anything we need to do to kind of push and send with the cost factors or anything involved in
I
it?
can
Or you
get
already
you all
doing
that
that?
information.
I mean, I
Let's
think
get through
that-
this budget, and then I think that could be
Yeah.
something that this committee
We
could.
have the white paper too.
Yeah, they've already produced a
Okay.
white paper, and we have that.
I
In
think
fact,
it'd be good to go ahead and.
We had given it, it's downstairs. I have a copy of it because we'd given it to Mayor Burgess last year, right before the election. Everything kind of got put on hold, but it's something that we could actually look at. But I dare say that we could bring in well over $1 million just in annual income to help support the day-to-day operations from the other counties, including what we're spending to a third party.
What about the two universities?
Two universities, I think they're good. Well, they had a priority because they have to, MTSU had to go first to ask to build the building to THEC, Tennessee Higher Education Commission, on Star State Board of Regents, but we're not under that anymore. So they had to go to THEC, and so the concrete management building took first priority because they had put in for that first. But I think Dr. McPhee and the university is still on board with this and would like to see that built. And it doesn't have to be on their campus. We can do it, you know.
I think with the medical school too, that's really important because medical students need to look at anatomy someplace other than a book.
Book or a
Body
dummy.
support.
Right?
Until you've held a pituitary gland, you don't really know.
Right. I'm glad I said that.
So I guess, Director Hutchins, we'll just leave you and as we get through with some of the budget
Yes, sir.
period, whatever, you just come back again.
Looking forward to
bring
it.
some information there.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Recovery Court.
Hey, cuz. Okay.
Got millions.
Hello.
Okay, I want to start off with the drug court report, recovery
Okay.
court. Right now in drug court, we have 39 participants. The drug of choice in drug court is still prescription medications. We had 4 graduate from drug court this month, and we had 1 termination. Our DUI court, right now we have 50 participants. Drug of choice is still alcohol in that court. It's to be expected. And then we had 2 graduate, which is good. Any graduation total is good, so 2 is better than none. And 0 terminated out of that program. As far as mental health court statistics, right now we have 29 individuals. Alcohol as well as the drug of choice in the mental health court program. We had 1 terminated and 1 graduate out of the mental health court. As far as our veterans court statistics, right now we have 21 individuals. Marijuana would be the drug of choice out of that court. And we did have 1 graduate total, and we did not have anybody terminated from that program. So. Does anybody have any questions about things?
How's your, the transition with the ankle bracelets going since we're getting out of that business? Is that transitioning well?
So far, it has transitioned very smoothly, and because it was a slow progression as far as transferring all those cases over, it's almost, I don't even want to speak ahead, but it's been seamless. So, yeah. But it's gone very well. So, getting out of that business has been very beneficial for the people we serve and for our departments too. So.
Good.
Okay. Want to approve these reports? Have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Approve there, second, Commissioner Shanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Right. And now we'll go over the probation recovery department. For our total expenditures for the month of May, that would be $170,695.72. Our year-to-date expenditures is $1,365,656.96. If we look at the revenue that was collected by the clerk's department, this will be circuit and general sessions court combined. It just breaks it down as usual. They collected $222.30 in drug screen fees, $912 in scram fees. So even though we're out of that electronic monitoring for the scram, there are still outstanding fees that were owed to the county prior to us getting out of that business. So just because we're out of the business doesn't mean that money's not still owed to the county. So all those fees were turned over to the county clerk to collect as part of their payment agreement or as part of their court case, whichever comes first. So we still will see those that are recurring after the fact. Total $4,366.67 for our supervision fees. So a total collected from the clerk's department was $5,500.97. And then down here we have the probation revenue. So total collected was $32,428.82. The expenditures was $170,695.72 for a difference of $138,266.90. Down at the bottom, as far as our payment agreements go for the month of May, $34,085 was turned over payment agreements for the clerks to collect. Those that failed to enter a payment agreement in the month of May was $46,512. So those are the fees that were owed, however, that person did not make their way to the clerk's department to enter in a payment agreement. So total amount for this fiscal year so far that's been turned over to the clerk on a voluntary payment agreement was $182,883.25. And then year to date for this fiscal year, money that was lost, those that failed to enter VPA was $321,251.25. So those individuals to this fiscal year were told to enter in a payment agreement for their outstanding costs of probation fees, however, did not do so. Does anyone have any questions about this report for probation?
Is there any possibility of those who didn't?
To enter them? The way there is, to answer your question, so we will notify them face-to-face. We'll notify them through phone, and we'll also notify them through letter. There are certain individuals that are ordered to be on telephone reporting. The court will order them to be on phone reporting if they live out of the area. Maybe they were passing through. Maybe they were a student at one point at MTSU, but their permanent address is out of the state. Or maybe the individual doesn't have a driver's license. It's not uncommon for them to be on phone reporting if they live in Davidson County. So with those individuals, typically across the board, they're going to receive a letter. They never get that face-to-face. You need to go to the judicial building and enter a payment agreement. Our hands get tied because the way the lawsuit settlement is that probation is not allowed to supervise anyone if they just owe fees. So we can tell that individual that they need to go enter a payment agreement. However, if they don't do so, we aren't able to have any kind of repercussions. So we have their termination reasons. We give them at least 30 days to kind of see. But the clerk's department will send me a list later on and say, the following individuals have entered a payment agreement. So I can go back in and revise the termination reason in the system. So that way it reflects accurately if they've done it even after the fact. So, which happens. So.
Okay. You answered my question. Any other questions anyone may have? If not, do I have a motion to approve probation?
Motion.
Motion been made. Mr. Gammon, have a second?
Second.
Commissioner, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can
Thank you. Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
All right, I believe we're ready for fire and rescue.
Year-to-date, we had a total of 2,567 calls. Our SWAT medics made 17 responses, and then our drone predator responded to 14 reports of lost persons to back up the sheriff's office. And when we have the senior citizens, somebody with the dementia, to wander off, we use that to launch and search those. We have 14 of those calls. We also provided 5 divers to the Blue Angels on the lake out there. When they flew during the air show, they required to have divers on the lake in case they were to go down. So we had to be out there during the times they were flying practice and during the show. So we provided that response. And then we had 591 calls for the month of May. We had, year-to-date, we had 1,338 medical calls, 342 MVAs. That's with injuries and without injuries. We had, you had 30 structure fires year-to-date, and we had 8 structure fires last month. So it was very busy last month. 304 medical calls for May, and then 29 MVAs with injury and 42 without injuries. The third sheet shows all the responses of the volunteers. Added to our response, it was 53 structure fires year-to-date. We've had 59 brush fires, 53 vehicle fires, 625 MVAs, 9 were extrications, and for a total of 3,176 calls countywide. The next sheet is the structures that were damaged by fire that we send to the County Codes Department. And then the alarm installs, we had 12 for the Tennessee grant, 78 for our fire prevention grant that we've acquired, and we've installed 4 of the Safe Awake for the hearing impaired. This last Saturday, we partnered with Kippa Volunteer Fire Department along with Red Cross, and we installed 88 fire alarms this weekend. So I felt like that was a pretty good Saturday. And then the next sheet is our fire investigation report. And then the last sheet is the monthly case. And if you notice, we had we put through the state legislature the police powers and for the fire investigators to have that ability and have carry weapons, and they made their first arrest, and the first court appearance was June 24th, and it was arson. So that's been very beneficial, and these are all the cases that they've looked at and closed or determined.
Even made Channel 5.
Yeah. And that's my report.
They had I know a fire out at Rockville this week, a barn that burned. I think there were 18 units is what was there that evening. They lost, 350 bales of hay. All the farm equipment was lost, but the response that showed up in that and how many different units were there, it was amazing. And the family was very appreciative of the way it was answered, the call was answered, and what was done there.
And again, that right there is a prime example of where those tankers have been very beneficial, because it takes a lot of water when hay catches on fire. A lot of water.
I heard from the folks around the Concord area up there, because they were filling up a lot of those units out there from a fire hydrant out that way. They said everybody was awake that night because every time they'd fill up one of those tankers from that fire hydrant, all the commodes would flush. So they kept everybody awake that night. Don't fill that fire.
They use water.
That's moving a lot of water right there.
They're using a lot of water right there in that unit right there. But they were very appreciative of what was going on there. But I think we had units from Eagleville, from the Rockville station on Salem, from the county unit, just from everywhere. That was just something to go. Any questions on the report?
Motion to approve the report.
Motion's been approved. Second. Second. Commissioner Irwin. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Calls. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. For the month of May, we had 688 animals come into the shelter. That's a little bit higher than what you're used to seeing. Of course, the summer months are a busy time, but you'll see down at the bottom, 237 of our reclaimed animals were from our surgery program. So if you take the 237 out of the 688, that makes that look a lot more manageable. We really put a focus on bringing in some, doing some extra shifts with our contract vet to be able to get caught up on some of those free surgery programs and get rid of that backlog. So out of those 688 that came in, we had 621 that left the shelter. You can see we had an adoption reclaim percentage of 85% and a euthanasia rate overall at 4.7%. But the biggest way to look at that is to see the animals that went back out through transfers or through the trap neuter release program, and that's by looking at the live release rate. We had 94.5% of our dogs, 93.8% of our cats, and an overall live release rate of 92.1%.
You got Bella in there?
I'm sorry?
That's Bella.
She's included in that adoption, yes.
All right.
We had 141 animals that remained in the shelter at the end of the month. You can see that we had almost 2,500 people in the shelter and almost 2,159 calls and voicemails for the month. We had 1,806 calls received and 1,862 calls completed by our officers, and they traveled 13,819 miles. Fiscal year to date, we've had 5,848 animals enter into the shelter. That is tracking down, which is what we want with all the programs and things that we're doing. And our live release rate fiscal year to date is 92.8%. We've handled almost 20,000 calls. We're still tracking. That is going up, of course, based on the population. As you recall, I mentioned a couple of months ago, over the last 2 years, we've gone up about 20%, and we're continuing to see that go up. And we've traveled almost 134,000 miles this fiscal year. The last page of your report, I think for you, although it's on a different section, is the rabies exposure and bite report. We had 41 bites for the month. 3 of those were tested, none coming back positive. And we had 7 other exposures. 2 of those were sent for testing, and neither of those came back positive as well. So we still have the new Rockville skunk as the only one for this year. That's my report.
Any questions? If not, I'll accept a motion for the approval of the report.
I move to approve.
Have approval. Have a second. Commissioner Corbin. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Emergency management.
Good evening, all. Mr. Lauer has a previous engagement, so I'm visiting this evening. I guess that's the biggest news is we are currently under new management, so we're excited about that. We started the month, the State Guard contacted me a few weeks ago, and we started planning for, by their request, a functional exercise for multiple agencies in Rutherford County for 2020. So we're beginning the planning phase of that. As you know, we had an emergency requisition request for an HVAC. We had the HVAC unit at Tiger Hill site go out, and the room got dangerously close to losing a lot of infrastructure because of overheating, so we were able to successfully replace that unit. We did deploy and send some resources to Bonnaroo in support of the event down there, communications and otherwise. Also are still actively involved in the active aggressor training across the board throughout the county, and did search and rescue training for volunteers this past Saturday for a bunch of people over at the EMA. Outstanding calls, nothing really out of the ordinary except for our suspicious explosive device at the Republican headquarters across the street over here, which was determined as a non-explosive device, but the threat was still maintained and it's still currently under investigation. Those reports are attached as well for your viewing. And that's about it.
Okay, Jim, any questions?
I assume the city's working that out?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
the ATF is also involved.
Okay.
Commissioner Gordon?
I move to approve.
Motion made to approve. Do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Irwin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report approved. Thank you. Thank you, sir. We will work now with a MOU with the City of Murfreesboro regarding the title. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, you have on your iPads, and probably I passed out a physical hard copy. Received it's not an MOU, that's still being drafted by the city legal department, but you have a commitment letter, because I told the city that I was not going to sign the Motorola agreement until I had commitment. And that's what this letter is. I want a commitment on them committing to build out the 5th tower at Shiloh, down Wholesale Pike. And so that's what this commitment letter is, stating that they have the money, they're going to build it out, and we'll tack on to that system. So moving in good interagency relationships between the city and the county, we're continuing to move forward. And of course, and then I had also got a copy from Alex with, handed that out from Alex Sherman with Motorola. And that was basically saying he was unaware of the meeting tonight, otherwise he would have been here. But he did talk to Bill Terry about this letter of commitment from the city, and also just wanted to remind us that that's why they put in the termination of convenience clause added into the contract, meaning that if they don't do it, then we can terminate.
Okay, sir.
That's the report.
Mr. Gordon?
Yeah, I'm happy to see this, and I think this is good, and I think that the actual MOU itself needs to be in some detail, and
We'll make sure.
developed by the
Yeah.
departments and the city, and make sure that everyone knows who's going to be responsible for what, who's going to share what, and so that, 5-10 years down the road, we don't have any misunderstandings when we may not be here, department heads may not be here, who knows? But we want to set that out in good language, and I think the mayor's fully aware of that, and I appreciate that, and I look forward to moving forward.
And also, Mr. Chairman, have another letter coming about determining when we co-locate, we move our dispatch over to the city's facility, that it's not going to be controlled by the city. We'll be controlling our own dispatch. So there'll be that relationship will be in writing about we control our own dispatchers, they control theirs.
Okay.
So that's coming as well.
Very good. I think we need to go ahead and have to approve this letter. I think where we go from there.
I move to approve.
Mr. Gurley, second. Commissioner Gann. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. All right, juvenile detention.
Good evening. So in front of you, you have our normal and usual reports. This is for the month of May in front of you. Really the only thing in any of it that is of importance or interesting is that since we have printed out and submitted our information, we have received Coffee County's payment, Franklin's payment, Gibson County, Lauderdale, Sumner, and also Wilson. So of those that counties that we had not received checks from yet, we have just 3 left, and as usual, we should be getting those any day, and don't expect that to be any problem. But beyond that information, I'll happily answer any questions that you may have regarding the rest of the report.
Are all these counties set up the same way we are on our tax end of the month?
Yes, and it is.
So it's the end of the year for them too, so they're trying to clear it out.
And this is normal. What they usually will slow down at the end of the fiscal year and then resume business as usual come July.
Okay, other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Commissioner Hay, motion, we have a second. Commissioner Gann. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion been made
Very
to
much.
approve the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got the sheriff, or who, or correctional? Correctional.
Good afternoon. Superintendent Cope couldn't make it tonight. He apologizes, but he had something come up. If you'll take a look at our report, you'll see that nothing's really changed. Our population is approximately the same. One of the major differences you'll notice on our activity report is we've tripled our garbage pickup, the trash collection. That's just, we reassigned some people to be able to do more work on the outside. And we also got with TDOT, and we partnered with them a little bit and to see how we could get more production out of that contract. So we're doing really well with that. We anticipate even more for the month of June. So
Have you been on the interstate yet?
we have not. That's not. We haven't done that yet. That's something that we're still discussing.
We're kind of hoping to get the new van so we can put the light bars on it.
Yeah.
And start, or
Well, I was concerned about
Well, that's
why
the
I was-
thing with the reliability of the vehicles is a huge factor, and it's one thing to visibility and reliability. It's one thing if our van stops on 231 South, but 24, it's a little bit more dangerous. So
Just a couple more lanes, not any less traffic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you'll notice that picked up. Of course, work release is going great. We have 11 companies now, and we have 40 inmates working on the program. So that's really coming together good, and we anticipate even more inmates within the next month or so. You'll notice inmate worker report for May, projected savings of $143,000 roughly. That's staying about the same. Of course, during the summer months, we increase workers on the outside. But that is our report. If there are any questions.
You even had letters.
Yes, we did have some letters. We're trying a new program to help with some behavior modification. Basically, we want to bring the inmates together with their children because it's huge incentive, and it's good for the families and everyone involved. The first outing we did was a movie night with some female inmates and their children, and these ladies wrote these letters about how much they appreciated us allowing them to have their kids come in, and we had a local church actually come in and volunteer and provide the food and stuff like that. So it really went well, and we'll be doing it with the males soon.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions concerning the report? If not, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Irwin, have a second?
Second.
Mr. Sereno, all those in favor?
Aye.
Report approved, thank you, sir. Now the sheriff. He's going solo tonight.
Going solo. I was told not to mess this up. So. Yeah, I'll be in deep trouble. The only thing that we've got is an insurance recovery, which we're going to put in 718 new vehicles, $16,440.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved, have a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes. Okay, so you have your financial statement, anything on there we should be?
The only thing that we've got, and I'll point out, is in 718, we do have a negative 1% balance, but that was because we've got a PO that's pending, waiting on this check to hit, and so we had to go ahead and get that in for financial to get the book straight. But other than that, everything else is in line.
Any other questions for the sheriff, anyone? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Vote to approve. Second.
Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, if I may, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, one other thing we've got is the state of Tennessee has passed a new law on mental health transport. We're supposed to, at the end of July, going into August, we're going to get all the details on how this is going to work out. It appears right now that the way this is going to be is the funding will come from the state on mental health transport. The sheriff of each county will be in charge of securing transport from outside agencies. There's going to be a grant program that they're setting up for this, and then once we get the details on how we go about applying for these grants, then we will get with the county and then try to work out what agencies may be interested to try to work out how we can apply for the grant to get that. Through May of this year, we're one of the unfortunate, we're in the top five in the state of Tennessee on mental health transports. We have transported through May 849 mental health cases. So it's quite a heavy burden on the sheriff's office. And this is the first in the United States to have a program where the sheriffs will be moving out of the transport business. So it's kind of setting a trend for the rest of the states right now.
That's really huge for your budget because you were having to pay time and a half. The overtime budget was busting in all sheriff departments across the state. I remember when I used to represent Murray County, Union George was sheriff, and
Huge.
he had a guy that was actually making about $73,000 a year because he was making so much in mental health transport. By the time he got the call, went and picked up the victim because they were off their meds, got them taken to the evaluation, which was taking a lot of time, and I think these iPads are really helping on the evaluation of the patient. And then you get to, they assign them to Vanderbilt or Centerstone or someplace to get them into.
We're going all the way to Memphis.
All the way to Memphis to get a bed. So that was costing our sheriff's departments huge amounts of money. So this was a big,
This is a
it was a big deal.
huge step for us.
Yeah, that's been getting worked on for a long
Oh, that's, as you well know, it's
Yeah.
been years and years trying to get to this point, and,
So that's going to give you more officers back out on the
well, actually, it
on the
will
road.
keep us from having to pull officers
Yeah.
out of the zones, and, because Memphis Transport or something like that, it's two people, so we're pulling them out, and they're gone for an entire day, and so that's going to be a tremendous load. The only other thing I have is I would like to express for the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, of course, we're ending our physical year, is how much we appreciate this committee working with us. And then, of course, also in budget, which is coming up. And so I express that with the mayor and commissioners, and how much all of us appreciate how much that you've worked with us this past year. And other than that, that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right,
Dan.
I think got one left.
Go get it.
Thank you, sir.
Dan got everything under control.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to report that in the month of May, we had 30 injuries as county employees requiring medical attention. You kind of see the breakout there. That brings the total for the year-to-date to 117. 74 of those classified as OSHA recordable. 33 of that 74 were restricted duties. 15 actually were out of work for lost time days, and then 26 were all others. The estimated dollars to complete the treatment for those, the total incurred dollars is $47,633. Just like to remind everybody, that's an estimate at the time as treatment is being rendered to the employee. If that treatment, resolves the injury sooner, then of course that dollars are reduced. If for some reason that would require additional treatment, then those dollars do go up. That is an estimate. First chart, as you see there, comparing this year today to the 2 previous years, we're running pretty close to where we were at the same time last year. 113 this year to 110 last year, and 94 the year before. The next page of your report there, you'll see the incurred dollars. We're doing much better as far as incurred dollars. We're at 220 year-to-date compared to last year, 288, and the previous year of 347 this time. Basically what that does is it's reflecting the severity of the injuries. The injuries are not severe. We had, over the last 2 years, we've had 1 or 2 where it's been reflected that it cost quite a bit of money considered. So, but this year we're doing much better. The injury is not as severe. The Board of Education had 19 of those claims that were had last month, and the total incurred dollars there is $16,500. The county had the other 11 for $31,132, and then the last page of the report we broke down, just kind of let you know where in the county general those injuries occurred for the 11, and you'll notice there it's across the Sheriff's Department, the Ambulance Service, Solid Waste, and Maintenance there.
Very good. Good to see an improvement.
Yes, sir. At least in the severity mode. That's the big thing.
But come August, school begins back, and here we go again.
Yeah, I'm glad you always mention that, because I always like to throw out there, when school starts back, I just like to remind everybody what happens during the summer. The schools are out there, they're re-waxing all the floors. So for all the students and all the teachers and anybody that visits the schools, just remember, freshly waxed floors, any water, any spills, any food that gets on the floor, that's just like walking on ice. I mean, it's big when they first start up the school year until those floors get a little bit of...
It's sticky?
No, not sticky. It's kind of slick. But just want to mention that, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay. All right, any other questions anyone may have? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve, second. Mr. Irvin, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anything else needs to come before the committee? If not, I move we adjourn.